Soldier's Heart by Alex 51324. Chapter 12. The Peter Letters, Part 2. 5th of October, 1915. It is now a year to the day since I left England, not counting carrying patients off the Albion on its last successful voyage, and I am very reflective. I suppose I ought to have been on August 4th, but all of us studiously avoided the subject of that day, except for the French, who had nothing to avoid, having studiously ignored their own anniversary several days earlier. It's been quite a journey, from base hospital to within shouting distance of the front, to the hospital ship, to a U-boat, to the prisoners' camp, to here. I can't say that much of it is what I expected when we were on the way to Kew, talking about what we'd do in the war. Or was it on the way back? I know it was on the tram with you and Lizel and Anna. The hospital bit I suppose I could have predicted, but certainly not the rest of it. Though in a way I am more or less doing what I thought, tending patients in a civilian hospital converted to military use. I just thought it would be in London. We have recently gotten some new patients, combat wounds newly captured. They tell us that there was a big push not long ago which had the oracles at home in high anticipation of a victory by November. It did not go well. You probably know more about it than I do, having access to English newspapers. We are not even supposed to see German ones, although sometimes we do. Some of the German workers are being irritatingly smug about it. I suppose I can't blame them, except that one of them is the old chairwoman whose grandchild I have been supplying with milk from my parcels. She has betrayed me, and will have no more milk from this man's parcels, I tell you. Or perhaps she will. I went on strike from giving her milk once before, when she was unpleasant on the subject of the Russian retreat, but relented when she brought the child in to show me. Missing you. I've lost my cigarette case. I think one of the German orderlies nicked it. But I still think of you whenever I smoke. 11th of November, 1915. Feeling glum, for no particular reason. Besides the obvious. The hospital routine is very wearying. Not the work, which is fairly light at the moment, but the on and onness of it. I suppose you know the feeling. It's not too different from what we always disliked about being in service. The feeling that nothing you're doing really matters. Here we do manage to make sick and injured people better sometimes, but you're just sending them back to the same prison camp where they got sick or hurt to begin with, and another one takes their place right away, so it doesn't feel like you're accomplishing much. Although I suppose that patients see it differently. I wish I knew how much longer the war would go on. If I could count down, each day I get through is one day closer to home. I might feel better. Perhaps not, though. After all, each day I get through is one day closer to home, even though I don't know how many more I've got ahead of me. Jean-Michel is getting a card game together. I'm sure he's trying to cheer me up. It won't work, but I suppose I should make an effort. Missing you more than I can stand. Your Peter. 25th of December, 1915. Happy Christmas, dearest. You wouldn't think it possible to have a decent Christmas in a prisoner-of-war hospital, but they've really made an effort. We were allowed out of the hospital, for the first time since we got here, to go to a midnight service. It was a Catholic one, and arranged for the French MO and orderlies, but most of us went. I can't tell you how it cheered me to see the open sky. There was a very nearly full moon. Hello, moon. I hope you happen to have looked up and seen it tonight. On Christmas Day there was an extra distribution of parcels, followed by a visit from the inmates of a German orphanage who carried in a Christmas tree and sang to us. You will probably have noticed right away that this was timed perfectly to oblige us to give the children sweets out of our parcels. Sweets are terribly hard to get in Germany right now. But I don't really mind. Most of us, I think, were quite glad to be able to contribute to a happy Christmas for those even less fortunate than ourselves. And the orphans probably felt the same way about us. I wish we'd been given some warning, though. We could have come up with some kind of entertainment for them. One of the patients managed some shadow puppets. That was about it. For Christmas lunch, the Red Cross ladies organized some roast chicken. God knows how most Germans are eating horse meat and being grateful for it, and apologized for it not being turkey. It was mainly for the patients, of course, but we each got a bit of it, and as I write this, the bones are simmering over the spirit stove in our orderly's room. Jean-Michel has promised us a delicious soup tomorrow, made with black market carrots and turnips, and rice from our parcels. In addition to parcels, I also had a few personal presents. Captain K has given me his copy of the new Sherlock Holmes book, on the condition that I let him borrow it back once I've read it. He got a large parcel of books assembled by his various relations. This particular one is from a brother-in-law he doesn't like very much, and so has no sentimental associations, although he is keen to read it. The other orderlies clubbed together to obtain for me a black market razor, which I needed badly, and a patient, moved by my parcelless plight, gave me an adventure novel by someone I've never heard of. Please do not think that I am reproaching you for not sending parcels. I can think of many reasons why this may be, and none of them are that you don't love me anymore. Perhaps the Red Cross has failed to adequately inform you that I am, in fact, allowed to receive them. Perhaps you have sent them, and each one has been lost or stolen on its way here, or the Red Cross has been delivering them somewhere else. Perhaps you've joined up and are currently situated as a recipient rather than sender of parcels. Perhaps, though I try not to think it, something has happened to you. In any case, I am entirely sure that you would be sending parcels if you could. In fact, shall I tell you a secret? Sometimes when I get the NERAMC prisoner ones, I imagine that you have sent some. Perhaps not the ones I personally receive. That would be a coincidence too great for words. But I somehow feel that if you did not know that you could send them to me, you might cast bread upon the waters in this way. And now I have made myself sad, so I shall hurry on to talk about my final and most surprising present, which was from my chairwoman friend, she of the milk-loving grandchild. I did resume giving it to her after all. It is a grey jumper, which she claims to have knitted personally with me in mind. I doubt this very much. For one thing, it has a musty aroma suggestive of long storage, and for another, it was plainly made for a man both shorter and wider than I. But I appreciate it nonetheless. Good clothing is growing scarce in Germany, though not so scarce as food. So if she obtained it for me, she must have traded something valuable for it, and if she already had it, she could have traded it for something valuable. When I say valuable, I speak of pre-war valuables. Some bit of jewelry, perhaps. If it was a matter of something really valuable, like a pint of milk or a couple of eggs, I'm sure she'd not have given it to me. It is especially appreciated because my tunic has gone beyond the point of repairs and makeshift reinforcement. You no sooner touch it with a needle than a new hole appears. A couple of weeks ago, a newly arrived major, a patient new to both the hospital and to the POW life, reproached me severely for allowing His Majesty's uniform to reach such a state. The MOs and several long-established patients leapt to my defense, reducing him to an apologetically quivering jelly. I meant to write you of the incident when it happened because I knew how much you would enjoy it, but we were quite busy just then. I hope that you are having a Christmas at least as nice as mine has been, dearest. I am now going to smoke a cigarette from my latest Any Prisoner parcel and think of you. 1st January 1916. Whoa! Here's a turn-up for the books. In my last I mentioned Major D, who was unpleasant about my uniform. He has died, infection, and shortly before the end he ordered me to keep his uniform coat and boots. I attempted to demur, but he woke the patient in the next bed to witness his verbal last will and testament. Honestly, it was kind of embarrassing. However, he was just about my size, and though I say it myself, I look very swank in an officer's coat. It is in very good shape, as his wound was in the leg. A few small bloodstains is all. The boots are the sort of knee boots that nobody with a brain in his head wears into the trenches, and I feel a right prat in them. But the coat is definitely a bit of all right. No tailor's label, which in itself suggests a couple of particularly exclusive shops, and very finely made. Officers' uniforms are always made of much better cloth than ours, but this is really top drawer. I have taken off all of the late Major's badges and insignia and replaced them with my own, which I hope will satisfy the War Office that I am not impersonating an officer in the event we are suddenly and dramatically liberated. I probably should feel worse than I do about the fact he had to die for me to have it, but I can't tell you how much it has improved my outlook on life to have something to wear that doesn't belong in a rag bag. Love, you're devastatingly handsome, Peter. 28th of January, 1916. Very worried for you. Papers full of the news that England has begun conscription. They give us newspapers now, printed in English and French by the Germans, for distribution to prisoners, meant to demoralize, of course, so it's hard to know which parts are true. They say that this indicates that the fighting spirit of the English has been broken, though what that means about the fighting spirit of Germany, which has had conscription throughout, I'm sure I can't say. I am surprised, though, given the number of enthusiastic volunteers at the start of the war. The casualty figures in the propaganda papers might be less exaggerated than I hoped, if we've run through them all already. My dearest, I say this as though you'll read it in time to do any good. Do everything you can to get into a safe spot. General staff, if you can manage it. They stay far behind the lines and need people to fetch and carry for them. Try sucking up the Lord G. If you can't wangle that, try for the RAMC. My experience aside, the odds are much better than in the infantry. I don't know how I'd stand it if, when I finally get to come back to England, you'd been killed. Stay safe, please. I shall light a cigarette for you this time, as I am so very worried.